Welcome everybody to Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. It is Business Monday here in downtown Providence. We are excited to be hosting Blake Banky. He's over at Newport Biodiesel, cool startup, about 10 years old, almost 10 years
Correct.
old, right? And we're kind of reinventing the waste food chain of the restaurant industry, from grease needing to be dumped and buried away in landfills, or I don't even know where it went in the olden days.
That's correct, yes.
Into an energy source fueling the Rhode Island economy and
You've
beyond.
done your homework. Well
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
Well
well,
done.
a little bit. Talk about, where did the idea come from? Not the most usual. I don't walk into a restaurant and go, God, you know, those dirty napkins, those could be a wonderful fuel source.
No, it's a good way to start off. I'm by the standards of my partners at Newport Biodiesel, I'm the new guy on the block.
Rookie.
So I often, in the early days, I would ask, how did this all get going? Because it was new to me. And the initial founder was looking for a way to heat his home more efficiently, more cheaply, and in an environmentally friendly way. So he was not a chemist by trade. He looked up in the literature this thing called biodiesel, tried to comprehend exactly how you make it. He made it in his basement, started heating his home, and then before you know it, he had more feedstock or inputs than he needed to heat his home, so he could then think about actually doing something else with the output, and he started to make a business of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how did it start? Like, what was I'm going to walk into a restaurant and ask them for their grease?
That's right.
Literally, just walks in and say, can I take that away from you? And they used to have to pay to get rid of it, correct?
Right.
So it was flipping the business model for them.
That's right. So Newport is a restaurant town, so there's no shortage of waste vegetable oil.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of waste vegetable oil, so it's quite easy for this initial gent to walk in there and say, that thing you're paying to get rid of, I will take it away for free. And as long as he showed up and did what he promised, then they were happy to do it. And the restaurant community is a tightly knit community through word of mouth, one restaurant, two restaurants. And today we're collecting from over 4,000 kitchens throughout New England.
4,000 kitchens. Mm-hmm. Is there a bucket of grease up on the wall at Newport Biodiesel of the first one, when people put their first $1 up for $5? Who was the first restaurant? Do you know by lore?
I don't know that offhand. I apologize for that. But we do have some old pics of the early days, and it's funny to see, us, or in particular them, 10 years ago, more hair, a little less.
Was it by wagon and horse or anything?
Yeah,
like
almost.
Now, was it like the Burger King, or was it Clark Cookhouse?
No, it was the local one-off
yeah.
restaurants that initially bought in and got us going.
And how do you scale this? Is it scaled by sort of force of will, like any type of growth strategy, or was it kind of the word of mouth in the hospitality industry that helped fuel it, that just sort of word got out? And was there ever a point in which the phone started ringing for you guys rather than you guys having to ring the phone with outbound?
So the short answer is word of mouth.
Yeah.
We have a team of salesmen that move around New England and sign up restaurants, for the most part, one-on-one. So they're knocking on doors, they have their pipeline and the like any sales effort. But it's a lot of one-on-one transactions, and that is the bread and butter of how we grow on the collection side. So we really have two parts to our business, right? We're a rendering company that collects waste vegetable oil and turns that into used cooking oil.
Yep.
And then we're also taking that output, becomes the input for making biodiesel. And as far as growing the biodiesel production side, that's a little bit different in that you need to scale your facility,
right.
Which is, there's certain resources that need to be garnered to do that. You have to have the expertise and the people and the capital to do that. To kind of paint the full picture, so we are collecting from over 4,000 restaurants, but that speaks to less than half of what we need to make the 7 million gallons a year of biodiesel that we're making today.
Wow.
So we step into the commodities market and we buy 50 to 60 tractor trailer loads a month of additional processed oil, bring it to our little mini refinery on the corner of Newport, and we turn that into clean burning fuel.
And where does that supply come in from?
All around the region. A good part of it, though, is from the tri-state area. So we have good suppliers, direct relationships, as well as brokered relationships down in New York and New Jersey.
And is it the same? Is it coming out of restaurants?
It's coming out of restaurants or industrial kitchens, and it's processed to come up with the same specification of input we need to make biodiesel from as that of our own collections.
You guys have raised some money over the years. You've grown.
So we are a bootstrap company.
Yeah.
It started with an idea and no money. So as far as the classic entrepreneurial story, we have that in our history. And for the first number of years, it was hand to mouth. And staring at the checkbook, make sure you have enough to do what you want to do the next day.
Right.
And then over the last few years, we turned the corner whereby we were raising a little bit of money, not a lot, from friends and family, no professional private equity of any sort,
Yeah.
not even really angel investors. And then through retained earnings, we were able to now invest in our facility to the point where our capex every year is a seven figures type number.
That's great.
And that brought us to our relationship with the state. Commerce RI, who you know, the folks there, they've been involved in some of our funding, and
They gave you a small business loan.
That's correct.
Help fuel some growth. How was that process? Tell us the good, the bad, the ugly. Brian's not here today. We can lay it out. Clean.
I did a little venture capital in my earlier days, my earlier career, and I know how painful that process can be. And so when I first heard about this, I kind of squinted. But the experience, and I say this truthfully, the experience could be nothing of the sort. It was quite easy in that we filled out the necessary documentation. You put your data on the paper. Then we met the people. It's actually we got to know the people better. We've already had known them, and then it was just a matter of them, processing what they've learned about us by their personal interactions with the data on the paper, combining that with the due diligence of the private sector, because we have some private funding now, and knowing that we're going to put our own dollars up alongside of it. That gives one peace of mind. If you put your own skin in the game, you're not gonna lose that money, or at least you're going to try hard not to.
Talk a little bit about growth strategy. How do you get to that 7 million? How do you grow it? What's the limitations? Is there geography limitations? Do you have to build another facility somewhere else in the country? And let's start there.
Well, so growth is a tricky topic, and I don't know if we have all the answers.
Yeah.
It's something that our board of directors looks at deeply. We have to understand what we're capable of, so know ourselves and what our limitations might be and what our potential might be. But we have to evaluate that in the context of what others are doing. So, I came in 2011 when I showed up. The industry was much smaller, much more fragmented. Nowadays,
A lot of roll-ups, a lot of consolidation.
it was more a collection of 300 points that were much like ours for the most part. A few really big ones, but for the most part, they were operations very, very similar to us. But over the last 10 years, yes, roll-ups and consolidation and weeding out the weak and all that. And so now we have to understand, well, what are others doing? And the industry is now dominated by large players in the Midwest. So we're a 7 million gallon a year plant. They might be a 50 or even 100 million gallon a year plant. So now you have to figure out where you are given that level of competition, because they do move product into our region. So all that has to be taken into account.
Are they banging on the door looking to acquire you from a strategic standpoint because they want to get into the restaurant-rich New England area?
So we do have inquiries, more than one or two in a year, especially over the last 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Out of given our fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders, we do explore that, because we have to try to monetize this investment either through operations or through a sale. So we do take those inquiries. We have yet to enter into a sale or merger of any significance.
You guys have been at it a while. You've sort of broken through the danger zones of early company growth. What was the biggest mistake you guys made, and how did you overcome it? Because this is an entrepreneurial company. I think people who watch this segment are looking for answers, how to avoid it, how to pick up on somebody else's error and try and fight through it.
Yeah, it's never fun to talk about your mistakes. But
if we have another hour after this, I can go through all of ours.
Begrudgingly, I will offer up. We did have a compliance issue back in 2013 where we were dealing with federal regulatory agencies, and at that time we were very much hand to mouth.
Yeah.
do what you need to do to open the door the next day. And it's not that we neglected, compliance and regulation, but they weren't at the top of the priority list of the day. And so we had to then scramble to catch up. And the catching up part took, the better part of 2 or 3 years and, a significant CapEx.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we did the right thing. If you're not where you need to be, then you stop the music, figure out what you need to do, and go do it. And that's what we did.
Good for you. What's the lesson to that? Is it, listen, as these companies grow, especially as you get some momentum, there's so many opportunities. You're hitting so many new things that you've never done before. Is there any checklist that you guys now have in how you develop your growth strategy to try and avoid pitfalls that other folks could learn about?
I think the way we try to set things up is we try to tap into the entire collection of people we have in our organization. So instead of saying, okay, us here at the top, us 1, 2, or 3, are going to identify the opportunities and the pitfalls, as you say, we really push the decision-making down, and we let everyone ask themselves that for the piece of the business that they're working on or anything else in their view. And that, I think, is what has enabled us to survive and to prosper.
That's great. Growth strategy going forward, give me a couple ideas of what you see in the future over the next 12, 24 months, and how optimistic are you about the future of the company?
I think we continually evaluate that. So my answer to the question today might not be the same a year from now, but I think we have to, again, know who we are. And I think, in a word, we're a niche player in that we have a market here locally. We can collect our feedstock locally, we can process it locally, we can sell our fuel locally. And, we'll be 1/5 or 1/10 the size of the big players, but we're here.
Yeah.
We're here in New England, and opening up a refinery that's like the size of Gulf or Exxon or Shell is not something easily done here in New England. So know that niche and operate in that niche. That's our play right now.
Can you guys be a wildly successful mid-size in the industry company that's wildly profitable in your existing structure out of Newport?
Yes, the short answer is yes. Wildly might be not the adjective I would use, but
significantly.
I think
above marginally.
The way we often characterize it, and when we have our discussions, is that what's the risk reward?
Yeah.
And at different times in the dialogue, we look at the numerator. Other times it's the denominator. But I think we can be successful as we step forward and execute on that plan.
You've got a senior team looking at your management structure. That's a hard thing to do in Rhode Island. What's been the success of that, especially in Newport? A little bit of a summer playland, hard to get senior execs, and you've got some people with some, muscles and some stripes on their resumes.
Yeah, in my former career, I was in finance in the New York area, and it's a different profile completely. And one of the things that really felt great when I first met Newport Biodiesel were the people that were making the bulk of the decisions. And they are talented. They are smarter than me for sure. And I think we're lucky in that we're in a place where the smart people do reside, and they have a holistic view of life.
Right.
And so they're not necessarily looking to maximize their check at the end of the week. They're doing that in the context of other aspects of life. And we opened up a good business in Rhode Island. We were able to attract these people.
That's great. Last thing, lessons to be learned for those watching. Is there any sort of mantra that you perform off of that you use as a daily guide and how you drive the business and what you think about Newport Biodiesel?
I guess like with any entrepreneur, I don't want to give all the cliches,
Give 110%.
Yeah, have your passion and all this kind of thing. But no, I think you have to have a certain toughness.
Yeah.
The aversion you're going to face day in and day out is going to be significant. The early days we're standing on the edge of the cliff, swinging our arms, making sure we could open the door the next day. And now it's the complexity of all the issues we face and how to set a more of a long-term view and garner all the resources and mitigate all the risks. These are the things that you need to do if you're going to be successful at taking a hobby business or an idea to a small business to a mid-sized company and beyond.
How many employees?
So we're 42 as of today.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Yeah. You're in all the good zones of size.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Blake, thanks so much for coming
Thank
on.
you,
Really
Josh. It was a
appreciate
pleasure.
it. And congratulations on the success. And as we all know, I'll do it for the viewer. Success is kind of up and to the right, but with lots of spikes.
There's some
and,
wiggles.
Down. And really congratulate you
Thank you.
on taking something that was functionally a pollutant and a problem.
That's right.
And turning it into a great reuse. And it's the greening of Rhode Island. We like to see it across with Deepwater Wind and green development. All these companies that are emerging in Rhode Island that are kind of transforming the economy, also making us much more self-sufficient as a region. So congratulations. We're going to be right back in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Josh Fenton. Hold on about 30 seconds and we'll have the next small business feature. Thanks so much.